A government has now said elections are simply over, and a Chinese AI model is suddenly making the global tech race look much tighter. Welcome to the Automated Daily, Top News Edition, the podcast created by generative AI. It's July 23rd, 2026, and I'm Trend Teller. Today, a major AI challenger from Beijing, a record copyright settlement for Anthropic, fresh pressure in the Middle East with possible consequences for global shipping, new authoritarian moves in Nicaragua and Russia, and two science updates that stand out for very different reasons. This episode is brought to you by SurveyMonkey. Don't just know what happened, know why. SurveyMonkey can help you unlock insights by combining feedback with operational data to get vital context. Find the link in the episode notes. We'll start with artificial intelligence, where the competitive picture is shifting again. Moonshot AI in Beijing has released Kimi K3, a huge open-weight language model that researchers say may be closing the gap with top American systems. The model is drawing attention not just because of its size, but because it reportedly performs strongly on practical tasks like coding and spreadsheet work, while also handling very long documents and code bases. In plain terms, this is another sign that frontier AI is no longer a race dominated by a small group of U.S. firms. Even with chip restrictions in place, Chinese companies are showing they can still build serious contenders. Staying with AI, Anthropic has reached a major legal milestone. A federal judge approved a $1.5 billion settlement in the copyright case over pirated books used to train Claude. Thousands of authors and publishers are expected to be compensated, and the deal is being described as the largest known copyright recovery of its kind. The broader significance is hard to miss. This is the first big settlement in the growing wave of AI copyright lawsuits. It also sharpens the emerging legal line around AI training, where courts may tolerate some use of copyrighted material, but not the way that material was collected. In the Middle East, two developments are feeding a wider sense of instability. Yemen's Houthi movement says it is imposing a blockade on Saudi Arabia by threatening Saudi-linked shipping through the el-Mandeb Strait, one of the world's most important trade choke points. Even if attacks remain limited, the threat alone could push cargo traffic onto longer and more expensive routes. That matters well beyond the region, because shipping delays there can ripple into energy prices, freight costs, and already fragile supply chains. After months of concern around the Strait of Hormuz, this opens another pressure point for global trade. That shipping threat lands as Iran is still dealing with the aftermath of the strike that killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. In a new account, Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said he survived the U.S.-Israeli attack after being pulled from rubble at a leadership compound. His remarks suggest the strike was far more than symbolic. It exposed a deep intelligence failure inside Iran and appears to have been designed to throw the leadership into confusion. Araghchi also said Iran had contingency plans, including possible disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, if Khamenei were killed. Put together, these developments point to a region where military escalation and economic disruption are now tightly linked.
Elsewhere, two governments are making it even clearer that political dissent will carry heavier costs. In Nicaragua, President Daniel Ortega says the country will hold no more elections, effectively formalizing a long slide from revolutionary politics into outright authoritarian rule. His wife, Rosario Murillo, now serves as co-president, and the family's grip on the state has only tightened since the 2018 crackdown and the elimination of serious opposition before the last vote. What stands out here is not just the move itself, but the lack of strong international pushback so far. And in Russia, lawmakers have passed a new measure aimed at citizens abroad who are accused of politically motivated offenses back home. The law would let authorities freeze bank accounts, block property sales, suspend licenses, and even deny basic consular services. For exiled journalists, activists, and critics of the war in Ukraine, that means Moscow is extending pressure well beyond its borders. It is another reminder that exile no longer guarantees much distance from the state, especially when governments are willing to use bureaucracy as a political weapon. Now to science, where one new study offers a clearer view of how parenthood can reshape the brain. Researchers working in mice identified a circuit that links pregnancy-related hormones to the brain's reward system. The effect is straightforward but important. Caring for newborns becomes not just necessary, but rewarding. When that pathway was switched on, females without prior birth acted more like new mothers. When it was blocked, caregiving slowed down. Scientists are careful not to overstate what mouse data means for humans, but the finding could help explain why bonding comes more easily for some parents than others, and why some struggle during the peripartum period. And finally, a space story worth noting. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope has confirmed a third giant planet in the Beta Pictoris system, called Beta Pictoris D. What makes this one especially interesting is how it was found. Instead of spotting it cleanly in an image, astronomers identified the planet through chemical fingerprints in its atmosphere, including carbon monoxide and later signs of water vapor and methane. That approach could be very useful in dusty young star systems where direct imaging is difficult. Beta Pictoris is relatively close in cosmic terms, so every new detail there gives astronomers another window into how planetary systems take shape. Thanks to our sponsor, Lindy. Lindy is your ultimate AI assistant that proactively manages your inbox, meetings, and calendar, so you can focus on what actually matters. Find the link in the episode notes. That's the top news for July 23rd, 2026. From the AI race in AI law to trade risks, authoritarian politics, and a couple of standout science updates, it's been a busy day. I'm Trend Teller, and this was the Automated Daily Top News Edition. Thanks for listening.